Hi everyone. So a lot of you have been asking, what does it actually look like when I review a call? So I'm going to go ahead and record myself reviewing a call of one of my clients so that you can see what the process looks like. During this video, I'll share my screen with redacted information, of course, for privacy reasons, but I'll show you what my process is and what types of feedback I'm giving during these call assessment reports. So enjoy this video. Let me know what you think. If you want more content like this, definitely drop it in the comments. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my screen recording now. I have the call in front of me that I'm going to review. It's 24 minutes. I've created a Google Doc here that says call assessment report for this particular client. I have sections here that I've already laid out around overall thoughts, intro and discovery, deck, demo, if there's like a pricing discussion, and then next steps and closing. So you'll see me fill this out as I listen to this call live. So here we go. Here's the founder of an AI company pitching a potential prospect. I love that the founder organically weaved in his pain points around seeing how hard it was to create video ads at previous companies like Meta and Snap to be able to piece into his intro. So that was really good and something that I'm writing down in the notes. So really great context that the prospect gave around this particular product having more AI avatars, which they wanted and liked, but they also dropped a breadcrumb. They mentioned the competitor name. And so I was hoping that the founder would pick up on that. Maybe he will. I was hoping to hear something like, oh, well, you said this competitor is also one of the platforms you like. Are you going to make a decision on both, or are you going to choose one or the other? It's a verbal breadcrumb that prospect drops. The founder here is actually pitching and just saying, okay, yeah, we do have a lot more avatars, but I wonder if he'll ask the question at the end here. He ends that with saying, like, I want to make sure I don't ramble and I want to answer your questions. I think it would have been more powerful for him to actually pick up, like I said, on the context that the prospect gave and then continue down that path. So I'll probably add another note on that. So now the prospect is handing it over to other people on his team. So let's see what they say. So this is interesting because this company has a product-led growth motion. And so these are users already, and now presumably they're going to give some feedback and then hopefully upgrade to the enterprise tier. So that's why this particular prospect is now sharing a screen and giving feedback. Okay, so the founder says one of the features they're looking for is available in enterprise. That's great. That means that there's hopefully an upsell path here, but let's continue to listen in. So the line of questioning pretty quickly gets into like product questioning. I think I'm going to write down feedback that it'd be helpful if there were questions around the overall business, how they're set up, like what are their goals, like why is this product right now being evaluated? Why now? Why is it an urgent need compared to, even like 3 months ago? So I'm going to add that feedback. So right now we're like 8 minutes and 55 seconds into the call, which is why I'm kind of calling this out. Like we get really tactical, and the beginning of the call is the best time to really think about the strategic priorities of the prospect you're talking about or you're talking to. So that's kind of what's going through my mind is I wish there was a little bit more kind of strategic conversation around why this particular prospect is looking at these sets of tools right now. It'll better arm you as a seller to be able to pitch on value if you get that impact up front. In a previous discussion, we had talked about pricing on seats versus on credits for enterprise. So the founder did this, and I'm really curious to see what the reception is actually based off of that particular pricing model. So now the prospect is talking about, okay, how many credits have we used? And how many credits will we need in the future, which is interesting because now the founder is going to have to need to translate from that to, okay, now we're going to a per user model with unlimited credits. Okay, so when the prospect says we want to start with 3 and then kind of roll out to the rest, the founder says, okay, I'm going to send you a proposal. I think that was a little bit too quick. it just feels a little bit rushed. And there's another question you can ask there around, okay, so if we, how long are you going to test with 3 teams, and then what's the expansion going to be like? So I'll put that in the notes. So I added some questions in here that he could have asked, like, is the price per user going to work for enterprise? Also, after the um, is after the test of the 3 teams, is rolling out to 10 teams like the final expansion, or is there more teams after that? Instead, he kind of really jumps to saying, okay, I can send you a pricing proposal. It just feels a little bit rushed to me. So I'm gonna also add in here is like, so far this feels like a Q&A session versus strategically aligning on that the prospects priorities, and how the product fits in with higher level goals. Okay, so at minute 12:39, that's when they start starting. I'm gonna put a note in here. That's when he starts going into a little bit more of the vision and additional products that these users could use. So I'm going to put a note on that. I like that you're bringing up vision and additional product surface area here. So far I feel like the pitch is really long, just without many questions. I would break this up and ask things like, was looking at competitor ads already on your radar? Was this something you were looking for? So you're asking questions around like, is what I'm showing you just cool, or has it been a business need or thing that you wanted to address? And things like, have you seen anything like this across other platforms? And then I would also ask, you mentioned not needing the performance analytics. What do you use for that today? Even if they don't need something, it's good to get curious about, what they're already using, where they don't need a particular feature of your product. So all these questions help you break up the dialogue and help this be conversational. Whereas right now there's a pretty long, I think, pitch of the feature set and functionality, which you want to avoid. If you get too deep into that rabbit hole of just talking about your product, you're missing out on context to get back from the prospect. So when the prospect says, yeah, I'd love beta access, I would also ask again, like, okay, are you looking for that? Is this a nice to have? Is this a must have? It just gives you more understanding of if they like the functionality, whether or not it's business critical. And I also wonder, is there like an upsell here? So the fact that they're not asking about, oh, what is the pricing if we like the beta, is a little bit of a yellow flag for me. It shows me that maybe this isn't a core interesting feature to them, which makes me kind of think, okay, do we actually need to be focusing so much time on these features? But in any case, you want to understand, okay, how important are the things that you're showing really to the prospect? Okay, so far we're 17 minutes and 47 seconds into this, and we haven't talked about the actual price of enterprise, but we're acting like, okay, we're going to move forward. So that's another piece of feedback that I'd want to put in here. So I'll put in here, I'm going to just mark this as like transition to talking about success, CSM, success and support. So this is like around minute 17:47. So far, I don't yet know what the price per user is for enterprise, and they haven't given feedback on that. I think important to understand this so that you can get a sense for their willingness to pay and their price sensitivity. So I'm gonna add around minute 18:16. The founder mentions actually sending over a quote again. I think that's another perfect opportunity for getting feedback on the pricing. Okay, so now I'm putting in here, like, he starts going into the fact that this product can create a custom avatar, and he's going through all the features and the three different ways you could do so. I'm gonna put a question in here, like, out of the three you mentioned, which ones are unique to your product, so that he can understand that during demos when you're showing something, you also want to make sure you convey, okay, this is something, by the way, that's not even in the market today outside of our product. So the one thing the founder did was, when the prospect asked, hey, can I have more avatars even though the limit is 10, the founder just gave in right away. Instead of doing that, I would figure out, I would use this as an opportunity again to understand, are they willing to pay the price? And if we're going to give them more than 10 custom avatars, like, what can we get in return? I think it's important to negotiate live like that, instead of saying, oh yeah, no problem, we can uncap this for you. That turns into more of like a servant to customer relationship versus like an equal partnership. You can also leverage timing. You could say, okay, we're willing to give you more than 10 avatars. Are you ready to make the decision within the next week? Let's continue. About 5 more minutes left in the call. Okay, so now I just finished listening to that call. And so what I'll do now is I'm going to write a few more notes on the next step in closing. I think the biggest thing that I don't get is like timing, and like, can they actually afford the enterprise pricing? So I'll put that in there. Towards the end, it wasn't clear when they'd be able to make a firm decision on enterprise, and the lack of pricing discussion makes me a bit nervous around whether or not they can afford the enterprise plan. Whether or not they will try and negotiate the offer. Way where we don't know the full context. Actually negotiate the offer, yeah. And then I'll scroll up to the overall thoughts portion and say, clearly these prospects are bought into the technology, which is great. I was looking for more alignment and information on their general business direction or general business strategy, and why something like is so important right now. There was also an opportunity to dig into the competition a bit. They mentioned, but we didn't get much context on how they would coexist or not with. Also think that being upfront about pricing so that they understand the total cost and what to expect would have been helpful to qualify their ability to budget for the enterprise tier. Okay, so I just finished this call assessment report. I'm going to send it over soon. I will explain my rationale. Hey, thanks for sending over the call with. I think overall, really positive to see that you're coming out on top as a product. Clearly, these users have tested a lot of different platforms and they're preferring. So that's great. The one thing I think we can work on is just digging deeper in terms of business priorities for your prospects, and also picking up the breadcrumbs and the verbal cues they're dropping. Pretty early on in the conversation, they mentioned they tested a lot of products and they're also looking at. So that would be a cue for me to ask, oh, like, what do you think of? Are you actually going to leverage both platforms? or are we the preferred vendor at this point? These types of questions, I think, will give you more clarity around the quality of the lead. The other thing I put in the notes is that there wasn't a lot of discussion around strategic priorities for. So in the very beginning, instead of going into, hey, I'm here to answer any questions, I would actually dig deeper into, okay, what's actually going on at the marketing agency? You lead a part. I think he said he leads like the info courses team. So if he leads that part, what else is going on at the rest of the company? Why is this an urgent matter right now to address? Why is something like important today? Has there been a change in terms of volume of customers and clients? Are they downsizing their team? These are things that can give you a lot of leverage in the negotiation when you mention pricing. Which brings me to another point. Pricing wasn't really discussed. You didn't really say, hey, this is what it's going to cost per user on the enterprise platform. And I think it's really important to be able to get their live reaction on that, because at this point, you're going to send the pricing proposal and you're not sure what the CFO is going to react to. You're not sure how is going to react. So getting some of that verbal indication on the call is really important, because then again, you'll have more clarity in terms of price sensitivity and how this is going to progress as a deal. The last thing I'll mention, there's a bunch of other notes that you can read, but the last thing I'll mention is there's also unclear what the timeline is after the call. So when are they going to sign? What's going to happen after that call? They mentioned they want this as quickly as possible, but what does that realistically mean, right? Like, what are the processes? Do they have a legal team? Is it literally the CFO just saying, yep, this looks good, and then they're good to go? So being able to ask questions around what should we expect in terms of when you want to kick off the enterprise relationship, these I think will really, really help you understand clearly what's going to happen with the deal and how it's going to progress after this call. So yeah, we could chat more live about it during our coaching session, but I wanted to send you a quick video because I know sometimes a verbal explanation is better than just reading the notes. So anyways, good work. It does look like this is a great quality lead. So excited to see how this progresses, and we'll chat on Thursday. See you later. And hopefully this is insightful in terms of how I help founders when they send over their actual live calls. Let me know if you like more content like this, or if you have any other thoughts in the comments.